Is Intel's comeback real, or is Intel circling the drain and will become irrelevant within 12 months? I'm Brian, the Finance Ninja. First, I'll go over Intel's business, the positives and the negatives. Then I'll go over their financials, then the valuation. Can you guess which house is mine? Guess what? Intel just released their Meteor Lake processor. Meteor Lake is Intel's latest CPU release, and it's been making waves in the tech world. It's a 14th-gen Core Ultra processor, a lot of words, and it's been designed to provide better performance and efficiency. But, as with any new technology, there have been some issues that have come to light. Intel's chip design team just isn't executing. Meteor Lake was promised to be the holy grail and finally give Intel the edge over AMD. The first point of concern is that the desktop variant of Meteor Lake was cancelled. All we have is the ultra-thin laptop variation. AI has been touted as one of Meteor Lake's strengths. It has been designed to provide better support for on-device AI work, such as auto-blurring backgrounds during video calls and chatting with AI assistants like Llama 2. Regarding AI, Tom's Hardware used Intel-developed performance test software designed to utilize Intel's strengths and tested it against Meteor Lake and AMD's Phoenix processors. It does not use Ryzen strengths, such as Ryzen AI. It also does not use NVIDIA strengths. Only Intel strengths were leveraged. Even with that, Intel won only 2 out of the 4 tests. Intel created these tests. Intel programmed them to take advantage of their technology. How are they not winning all 4? According to Moore's Law is dead, Meteor Lake has 10 tops, whereas AMD's next chip, Hawk Point, has 16 tops. It's a measurement of AI performance. As mentioned, the desktop version of Meteor Lake was cancelled. Instead, Intel released a refresh of Meteor Lake. The performance increase of the refresh is an astounding 1 to 2% greater than the previous generation. Did you see the sarcasm? Intel pretty much took last year's processor and slapped it in a new box and selling it as new. There were also issues regarding power consumption. Intel has their work cut out for them in clients. Let's move on to AI. Intel has last released a great AI offering, but you can never count Intel out of the game. Intel recently announced their Gaudi 3 AI chip. An article called this the Big Fat AI Accelerator. Hope I don't get canceled. Intel said the Gaudi 3 is expected to launch in 2024. It's almost 2024 already, so I expect it to be in late 2024. It will offer a significant performance bump compared to the Gaudi 2. It is Intel's first chip design that fuses 2 processors together. Stealing a page from AMD here. More specifically, Intel expects 4 times higher BF16 performance, 2 times faster networking performance, and 1.5 times higher bandwidth compared to Gaudi 2. Now, where Intel went wrong, I believe, is they didn't compare their product to NVIDIA or AMD. They only compared it to themselves. So there's no benchmark that goes cross-system. Usually, but not always, when companies do this, it means they expect to underperform competitors. But we'll have to wait and see, though. See, here's the thing. Intel isn't going after AMD right now. Intel knows that AMD has the best processors on the market. Intel is unable to compete with AMD because Intel is behind TSMC in processor node technology. Intel manufactures their own chips, unlike AMD, so Intel must be on par or better than their peers in processor manufacturing. Apologies, that's my cat. As you may know, Intel is one of the world's leading semiconductor companies and the largest maker of computer processors. However, in recent years, Intel has faced some challenges in keeping up with its competitors, such as TSMC and Samsung, who have surpassed Intel in producing smaller and faster chips. In order to catch up to TSMC and Samsung, Intel is releasing 5 nodes in 4 years. That is an insane pace. In fact, Intel has already purchased many manufacturing products from ASML in their 18A processors, which will power Meteor Lake. That's crazy. That's crazy speed by Pat Gelsinger, Intel's new CEO. It's insane. Intel says this roadmap will allow them to surpass TSMC by 2025. Now here's the other thing. Chip manufacturing is expensive. Each node generation is more expensive than the previous. Since Intel was making their own chips only for internal use, they cannot leverage economies of scale to reduce the price per wafer. Oh, if you don't know what a wafer is, think of it like a circular waffle where each indent is a chip. Now, AMD ran into the same issue 10 years ago. This is why AMD spun off their chip manufacturing into global foundries. This is why NVIDIA does not create their own chips. This is why Apple, yes, Apple, that's Apple. Apple does not make their own chips either. When Pat took over the reins, Intel was floundering. Behind AMD, behind TSMC, losing market share. He had to make a choice. Choice 1. Close down their chip factories and license manufacturing to TSMC. Or choice 2. Double down, expand greatly, and make chips for others as well as themselves. Intel chose number 2. Now, so far, Intel's execution has been really good. Better than I expected. Far better than I expected. Intel is known as 14 nanometer plus. They have started on multiple factories. The road to 18A is on track. And the Intel Foundry Service is getting on track. So far, so good. This has come at a cost, though. Intel has announced a bold strategy to invest $20 billion in just 2 new chip fabrication facilities, or fabs, in New Albany, Ohio, a suburb of Columbus. The site will eventually have 8 fabs. I don't have enough fingers for that right now. Making it the largest silicon manufacturing location on the planet. When complete, these 8 fabs will cost $100 billion over the next decade just in Ohio. I mean, look at the URL. This is straight from the horse's mouth. Intel said this. I'm not making this up. Now, don't get me wrong. TSMC needs competition for high-end chips. Right now, there is none. Even Samsung is far behind. So I wish Intel all the luck in the world in becoming a large player in this arena. However, it will cost Intel a ton of money and is extremely risky. We have Arizona, $30 billion there. The EU, 30 billion euros. Do you know what I would do if I had 33 billion euros? I'd eat them, because euros are tasty. Each chip factory takes $10 billion and 5 years to build. Can Intel afford this gigantic cost? Now, granted, some of this cost will be financed by the government handouts. That means, you and me will be handing Intel money to build these things. The CHIPS Act. But Intel will still have huge costs to cover themselves. We'll go over that in the finances section. Intel has promised to cut costs by $10 billion per year by 2025. That's a big number. Now let's start with Intel's latest move in a string of workforce reductions, revealing plans to cut 235 jobs at its research and development base in Folsom, California. What's happening? Intel has announced that it will lay off 235 employees at its Folsom campus starting from December 31st, just about a week from now, and spanning a 2-week period. Now, this is the 5th round of job cuts within this year alone. as the company aims to streamline operations and adjust its strategy to current market dynamics. Why is this happening? A spokesperson for Intel said that the company is working to accelerate its strategy while reducing costs through multiple initiatives, including some business and function-specific workplace reductions across the company. This move could be a precursor to additional staff reductions in the coming year, suggesting the likelihood of further restructuring within the company. Next up is Intel's financials. But first, Xiaomao, the Jedi Kitty, says to like and subscribe. Intel is trading at about $48 per share, increasing by a massive 84% this year alone. Is this warranted? Intel's forward PE is 26. 2022 was a disaster in the CPU market. Not just for Intel, this affected AMD as well, and Apple. This was just a disaster. It was due to the COVID issue. Now, supply and demand finally crossed, and boy did they cross. Inventories spiked. Sales crumbled. It was the end. Intel's revenues cratered from $79 billion in 2021, just 2 years ago, to only $52.8 billion in the trailing 12 months. These numbers are a disaster. This is the result of the crumbling PC market and losing market share to AMD in client and data center. Now here's the revenues by segment. Note the metric change starting in 2022. You can see the crumbling client segment here. But what is also notable is the declining data center numbers. Companies are buying GPUs for the AI craze instead of CPUs. And for CPUs, they are gradually moving to AMD. The numbers have improved, though, since Q1 2023. Cash flow is also a disaster in 2022 and the first half of 2023. But Intel has now become cash flow positive again. This is including CapEx for the new factories. This is really good. Intel can be the comeback kid. 2022 also took a big toll on Intel's debt, growing from $6.7 billion to $22.7 billion. That's huge. Wall Street gives Intel a hold price target, $39.71. I'm going to be putting my investment report on Intel on my Patreon later today. If you check my Patreon and don't see it, just wait a day and it will be there. My Patreon special is going on until the end of the year. It's only $1, locked in for life. You get access to all of my investment reports and spreadsheets. You'll never find a better deal. Now, what am I doing? I think it is likely that Intel will pivot successfully to a company that makes chips for other companies and can compete with TSMC and Samsung. The 2022 craziness is out of the way. However, the question's still out there on whether Intel will be able to create chips that can compete with AMD. Meteor Lake just isn't it. Will Arrow Lake be it? Let's see. Intel is betting its all on Foundry service. It must succeed. If it doesn't, Intel will become a smaller company. If it does succeed, then Intel will be a valuable option for those wanting something other than TSMC. However, given these uncertainties, I am on the sidelines and I actually can't create a proper DCF valuation. There's just too many unknowns for me. I will wait until we get more clarity on Intel's node technology and their foundry service. I think it will probably take me about a year to get a good footing on where Intel's at and to be able to project outward. Foundry is really small right now. It only came in at about $300-something million in revenue last quarter. So I need clarity on how big it can get. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.